2 years ago, on a cold November night, a simple post on Facebook by a young journalist sparked a series of events that culminated in Ukraine's revolution of dignity. Earlier, that same day, the government made public that Ukraine's president had decided to reject a historic free trade deal between Ukraine and the European Union, suddenly and unexpectedly reversing decades of Ukrainian movement toward Europe. What brought thousands of people out onto Kyiv's Maidan that night and in the weeks that followed was the Ukrainian people's conviction that Ukraine is Europe, regardless of what their government decreed. Ukrainians stood together to demand a future rooted in shared European values, in freedom, dignity, and the right to determine their own future. In democracy, human rights, the rule of law, and to prove that Ukraine is, as Ukrainians say, the heart of Europe. Looking at these pictures, you see why Ukrainians dubbed this the Euro Maidan. Everywhere you see European Union flags. Everywhere you see signs declaring confidently that Ukraine is Europe. 2 years later, as we commemorate the beginning of the Euromaidan, let's rekindle that spirit of community, of purpose, of resolve, and let's stand with Ukrainians in their continuing desire to build a brighter, more just, and European future.
Having chosen a European path, the Ukrainian people paid a heavy price to depose a corrupt government and reject Moscow's control over their destiny. The images of police and Kremlin-backed snipers killing over 100 innocent civilians is forever etched in Ukraine's collective memory. After President Viktor Yanukovych fled Kiev for Russia, Ukraine's interim government found itself with an army in ruins and a military hierarchy infiltrated by Russian agents. Sensing an opportune time to strike, Vladimir Putin launched a stealth invasion of Ukraine, dispatching special ops forces, military units, and intelligence officers to seize Crimea. Emboldened by the failure of Western countries to react swiftly and decisively, Vladimir Putin soon expanded his aggression against Ukraine, using special agents and local proxies branded as separatists. Moscow unleashed its military invasion and campaign of terror in Ukraine's eastern provinces, in the hope of toppling Kyiv's new pro-European government. Ill-equipped to fight a Russian invasion, Ukraine's armed forces struggled to defend their land against Russian-backed mercenaries and heavy weapons. But the Ukrainian nation's passion for freedom could not be destroyed, and soon thousands volunteered to join the front lines and defend their homeland. Ukrainian citizens took it upon themselves to provide their defense forces with the material support to carry on the fight against Russian occupation. Around the world, Ukrainian communities rallied together to assist. Under the auspices of the International Council in support of Ukraine, multiple humanitarian projects were undertaken. In May of 2014, one of the first projects to provide non-lethal assistance to Ukraine's military was launched here in Canada. In cooperation with the Free People, Вільні люди, volunteer network, the Friends of Ukraine Defense Forces, founded by the League of Ukrainian Canadians and League of Ukrainian Canadian Women, has raised aid for Ukraine's military personnel, including medicine, vehicles, body armor, radios, and night vision goggles. As Russia's war in Ukraine intensified, and the number of wounded soldiers suffering from physical and psychological trauma began to increase, a second humanitarian project was launched by the League of Ukrainian Canadian Women. The Guardian Angels Ukraine project was established in late 2014 to support the medical treatment, rehabilitation, and social integration of Ukraine's wounded soldiers. The project financed the opening of the first center for physical and psychological rehabilitation of Ukrainian servicemen at the Irpin military hospital near Kyiv, and funded the first mission of Canadian experts in rehabilitation services for veterans. Its sister project, Heroes Companion, is the first Canadian-sponsored service dog program for Ukrainian veterans. Today, as Vladimir Putin and his Syrian adventure attempt to rebrand Russia's image as a new partner in the war on terror, we dare not forget the existential threat posed by the Kremlin's own legacy of land grabs, assassinations, invasion, and terror in the skies. Ukraine has become NATO's first line of defense, as it protects the shared values of freedom, self-determination, and democracy. As we enter a defining moment in world history, how united we remain in standing by a strong, secure, and stable Ukraine will determine the very future of the free world.